Hello, and welcome back. In part 2, I will continue to expand on the fall of man in society. To recap, I don't believe we will have a societal collapse as many MGTOW have proposed, given the rise of feminism and the impending death, indeed, the illegality of masculinity here in the West. In fact, fate has already played its hand. In part 2, I discuss how men are already a non-factor in the stability of society, and how feminism, along with our blessed centralized socialistic government, has destroyed men through legislative action and cultural manipulation with emotional weapons. So much of our industrial output is driven by automation. The available jobs requiring men's specific skill set are dissolving, and most Western societies are service-based economies. Service-based usually implies female job expansion and male-dominated jobs declining. And let's not forget how many jobs are becoming corporatized. Now it takes 50 people to do what 10 experienced men used to be able to do. Feminists are carving out niches in so many male-dominated fields, which adds complexity, leading to dead-weight employees. Also, any job that pays well is part of this massive structure, and so we can see feminists are not only creating dead weight through legislation, but this dead weight also demands high salaries. No, this is not a good thing. It's as if, for equality to work, every job becomes people-heavy. But this would never work in a free market economy. What is happening? Government subsidies, standardized operating practice, massive amounts of paperwork requiring additional personnel to fill out useless forms in order to stay in compliance, 50 managers for 50 lower level employees. Basically, equality spells lots and lots of dead weight, along with the politics of so many people having so little to do, which leads to chronically poor morale. And heaven help you if you are injured. Stub your toe at work and there's a federal investigation. Not only has the workplace become dumb as a doorstop, but it's become so damn risk-phobic. Work has almost lost all the excitement it used to promise young boys. Do you know what today's military officer's primary responsibility is? PowerPoint presentations. Do you know what the physician's primary responsibility is? Following hospital and regulatory protocol and getting out of the hospital with as little paperwork as possible. They usually hire female nurse practitioners to dictate and record notes. You would not believe the amount of paperwork involved in even the most minor healthcare treatment. I've worked with many young residents who say their dream of treating illness transformed into a day job as a corporate pawn. Yeah, many of them just paid $250,000 for a dream profession, and now they have no way to get out of the reality of modern medicine. The workplace is evolving into a veneer of productivity with a feminine touch. What are men to do? We have technologized the workplace to the point where any dumbass can do any job. All you need now is enough education on paper and you can get the job, which tends to be following directions and learning the computer system. Men aren't generally interested in doing pointless bullshit to get a job they know will be dissatisfying, but women are more than happy to plug into the system, go through the motions, and receive their empty congratulatory letters, along with an invitation to the company picnic, where they can show off that great blouse they just bought. Eventually they die. What a life. My point here is, men are not holding this modern society together. Society is now a shadow of free market economics, engulfed in a centrally planned model. Society is becoming standardized and overregulated. Great breakthroughs do happen in the lab, but the men who work there are restricted from being creative or working for recognition, so yeah, it's not easy to take risks. Imagine how many breakthroughs we'd have seen by now if all research labs were funded and run like skunkworks or DARPA. The world has been moving towards centralization and standardization. In the spirit of cooperation and inclusion, the various federal governments are playing a more active role. Originally in the United States, the Articles of Confederacy established each of the United States as independent and sovereign. Then the Federalists pushed the Constitution to replace these articles. The Federalists created a central government. Central governments have a knack for not letting citizens ignore it. Over the last 228 years, federal encroachment has been growing. As of 2015, the Code of Federal Regulations contains 70,000 pages of regulations. This is not the U.S. Code, but all the regulations created by federal bureaucrats. According to the Washington Free Beacon, Federal agencies issued 3,554 new regulations in 2014 alone, which is 16 regulations per law passed by Congress. Now, not all those regulations apply to the individual person or business, but it is worth noting that, according to the Competitive Enterprise Institute, in 2014, federal regulations compliance efforts cost businesses nationwide $1.88 trillion collectively. That is 14% of the national income and about 12% of GDP. That is ridiculous. In fact, federal taxes collected were $3 trillion. So the cost of doing business in the U.S. is estimated to be more than half of all tax revenues collected by the federal government. You can see the obvious encroachment of the central government onto everyone's everyday lives. My point here is that if anybody thought that we were a true free market economy, you're fooling yourself. We have a centrally planned government already, and it's growing. Thus, with centralization, it's no longer men holding society together, like in a truly free competition-based economy, but federal standards, bureaucratic regulations, and collectivist corporate structures. You can see that society no longer relies on men as it once did. So, will this society collapse as men are pushed to the gutter? I don't think so. We are not only becoming irrelevant, but our natural risk-taking and innovative natures are becoming labeled an enemy of the status quo by this gynocentric system. But if we remember what life was like during the 18 and 1900s, when men really did hold society together, aside from the few that made huge breakthroughs, such as Thomas Edison and Elias Howe, most men were stuck with harsh labor conditions, long days at the plow, and subsistence living. We no longer must do this as a necessity, so there is a silver lining to the decline of male dominance. Much of the agriculture work is taken care of by harvesters or low-paid immigrants. The factories are automated, the skills are degrading or obsolete, and the wages are declining in the trades. Men are and will continue to be replaced by manginas and women who can smile, shake hands, and remember people's names. Men without the inclination or resources to obtain useless degrees and credentials don't qualify for most of the jobs that are now being developed. So where exactly are we now as men? Well, all you have to do is look at the labor participation rate and the number of households where women are the top earners. According to Pew, the percentage of all married couples where women were the top earners has been on a fast increase since 1960, from 6.2% to 24.3% in 2011. In 2014, the labor participation rate between men versus women was only split by 13%. 4% of men per year have dropped out of the labor force, and women's participation has remained relatively steady near 59%. So it's obvious what's going on here. Men are being replaced by women, and women are taking the higher paid jobs. Yes, equality has really begun to destroy men as the bedrock of society, and will likely continue to do so. I don't see the legislatures of state or federal governments becoming pro-male anytime soon, if ever. So that's where we're at. But where are we going? What does the future hold? I think feminism will continue to grow in strength. It will grow, and nothing can stop it. It's like a virus attacking an AIDS patient, since there's no opposition. I mean, seriously, there's no opposition anywhere. To oppose feminism is to be labeled some kind of pariah, and if you're in the public eye, like any legislative official, you will avoid that label at all costs. Feminists are so entrenched in this society as both accuser and victim, it's a losing proposition to ever resist them. Label crusaders have used their emotional weapons well. But here's where we come in. I see MGTOW growing, just as strong. Sure, women have a very big head start, but I see, say, 20 to 50 years down the road, MGTOW will be just as strong as feminism. They have a head start, sure, but how long did it take them to get to where they're at? Well, we are where they were so many years ago, right there at the starting line. MGTOW versus feminism is the future, I think. What are the consequences of a two-party cultural economy? Well, what do MGTOW and feminists have in common? Both see each other as the enemy. If the current traditionalist mindset is replaced with a culture which is diametrically opposed, what can the result be once MGTOW is just as strong as the feminist trash? I'm not going to detail the progression, but here's where I see this ending. baby farms, female lifetime pensions, and a free market economy where men are the dominant players once again. Are you depressed yet? Well, get ready for a revolution. In part 3, I'm going to discuss what male domination under MGTOW men's leadership could look like. It's going to be a beautiful morning. Thanks for listening.